Hi everyone, and welcome to a kind of different kind of stream today. Because as you can see, I have a guest. The other side. Okay, it's okay.
Hi everyone.
Hi, I will explain everything. Let me give you a little bit of context about why we are doing that stream today. Very recently, I had my very first LARP experience. Et pour les francophones qui nous écoutent, LARP, c'est les GN, les grandeurs nature. So, of course, I became completely obsessed with that and tried to learn more about it. And I thought that it would be a good way to share because, as it turns out, I knew literally nothing about LARPs. And the only concept I knew about that activity was basically people dressed in medieval clothes hitting each other with a rubber sword. And that's way far from all that there is to it. So I figured maybe I would like to share a little bit with you about what it is, what it could be, and what better way to speak about it than to speak with somebody who is very much involved in that. And this is why we have today's guest, Alessandro. Thank you so much for coming, man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for watching and interact with us.
So, well, first things first. Maybe let's have a few words about who you are. Like, who exactly are you?
I'm Alessandro. I'm Italian, so I'm speaking to you from the wonderful and unknown town of Pescara, and which is my own town. I'm back since many years, and I am passionate about role playing in all the possible sense, and I like role playing game tabletop, and also I like LARP, and I active also as a designer, as an author. I write tabletop role playing and also LARP since many years. I work with the Chaos League Collective, which is the logo you see just on my head, and we started as a bunch of kids in a small town in the center side of Italy, very bored in the 90s. So we started to invent story and have a fantastic experience instead of just doing nothing in the city center. So we started by playing a lot of role-playing game tabletop, and then we discovered that there were also the possibility to do that on live. We embodied your character with your physique, with your body, with having costumes and stuff. So we say, why not? We tried, and we became obsessed from the day one. Because all this fantastic narrative was also reinforced by the immersive aspect. So we started to, at the time, it was in 1992, we started this idea of doing a collective of people that just want to play and organize play. Me, myself, also, I teach at the university. I'm in musicology. I'm teaching aesthetic, philosophy, and technology of music. And I like to meet people, play, invent story, and try to see reality from another point of view.
So basically, you already started to do some role play because before you knew that LARPing was an actual thing.
Yes, I think LARP is pretty much a basic form of game that everybody have already done in our childhood. You know, the play pretend, the basic. I'm no longer myself. I am a doctor, a thief, a pirate, or a dragon, or just someone else. This is the first very basic way to give a chance for us to be someone else, which is under the larger umbrella of pretend. You can have ritual, theater, religious cult, or games, any way, any moment where you can be someone else. Even in society, we change our masks constantly. Role-playing game is just a way to put that on a spotlight and say, look, now we are doing cautiously. Now we know that we are doing that. It will last for a moment, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 days in case of some of the LARP. We can be 2, 3, 4 people, or up to hundreds and thousands also in some kind of LARP. And we are in the magic circle. You know, as long as we pretend in the same moment to be in another moment in history, on another world, or in a fantasy world, or in a fictional world, then we start believing. And so you are just doing a most complex play pretend, but we already play pretend all the time.
Yeah, this is something that we already do naturally from childhood, and we just like do it a little bit more intensity, basically. And
Yeah,
yeah,
we forgot. Just to end that, there is a quotation that usually they say that is from Sigmund Freud, which is the contrary, the opposite of games is not what is serious, but what is real. So that means that create another reality.
ooh, I
It's
like
not
this.
it's a game or playing is something not serious. It's not something not serious. It's something that create an artificial world. So this is also sometimes we are scared about game and we stigmatize game a lot in our society.
Very much so. And when you starting doing that with your friends, like in the early '90s and stuff, were you just sticking to your core group of few friends, or did you also try to like get more people, strangers, to come and come play with you? How did it go?
This is very interesting also for all the development of all the Chaos League aesthetics and stuff. We were very lucky and very unlucky at the same time. Because let me get you back in the past. In 1992, when we started with Chaos League, there were, is strange to say, but there were no internet and no cell phone. I mean, there were some possibility to reach people by computer, but it was very limited. So it means that we were on our own, and we came from, and we were on this not such a big town in a very isolated area. I mean, there is a lot of mountains. It's very cool here. Abruzzo is the name of the region, but it's quite isolated from other. There is no big town or stuff. So we were basically this bunch of friends. So it means that we started to play and to forge our own style, our own aesthetics. Then we start to get more people involved because, of course, you want more people to play your game, to meet other people, and to see whatever can happen by mix it up with other people. And then we started to collect people in the only way that was possible at the time, going to the game shop and put some advertising there and ask to friend of friends and then do phone calls like maybe we played D&D once 6 months ago. What about come with us in the hood and create this fantastic story? And so we started with this bunch of expanded friend group, let's say. And then also there other groups that used to play with us started to play their own game. So it means that there were this group of people that were not that much, like 50, 60, 65, and we played each other games. So this means that we had the chance to have this laboratory, basically, let's say, this playful workshop where we were able to try it again, try and fail again. And so when we went more public, let's say, we already had a lot of experience done in a safe environment. So we started to do game for people outside our region after many years. And so all this first moment of our history was trying again in our secluded space, and we learned a lot.
And do you actually remember the first time that you brought people that were not from your friend group? Do you remember what LARP that was, what theme it was?
Yeah, the first we started with fantasy, classical fantasy setting, and a more classical rule. At the time, LARP was still a bit a sort of stand-up version of tabletop. You know, you had rules, you have character sheet, and you have still in the majority of LARP, you still have that, because of course when you play LARP where you have to reproduce something that you cannot do in real life, you need techniques, you need to break the game, because you really need to simulate a fireball, or that you are a fantastic barbarians and with an incredible strength and stuff.
Yeah, so there's still some gameplay elements to it.
Yes. So we started with that, and we didn't felt in love that much with that, to be honest. We played, still part of our background, but we needed to change quite fast. So the first very 2 or 3 years of Chaos League, we started with that. Also mind that we were very young. When we started Chaos League, I was 12.
Oh,
It was the
wow.
small kids in the group, but the bigger one were like 15 or 16, you know.
Okay.
So we really wanted to to explore, and so we started with that. And so the first people were outside of our friend group. We made, this is also very fun to think how things changed, because um, basically at the time you just try to spread the voice and say, look, on these dates, on this hood, at this time, we will play a LARP. So come, show up if you are interested. And you will never have any clue about how many people will show up. 2 or 45. And also this explains a lot about how the design was a bit, oh, come on, let's just have fun.
Let's freestyle it, yeah.
Yes. Also was very good to learn a lot of stuff because we had to improvise. So I remember those bunch of people that came with a car, which was also, whoa, a car, so something more than 18. So some adults are there. That was our first reaction, and yeah, and also I remember after some game there were a girl from Rimini, which like in more in the north of Italy, it's like uh, 300 kilometers from Pescara. We say, wow, you took all the way down. And at the time, it was crazy to take your car and driving like 4 hours to do a LARP. Like now, as we say, and as we met, people can take plane or trains and travel days to reach the location. But this was our first meeting of the others.
And is that like one of the first time that you realized that people outside of your area were also doing the same thing and that it was much bigger than you thought, this like sort of activity? Was it as I don't think it was like spread out as much as it is today, of course, like it was not as well known, this kind of activity, but like what was the situation back then? Was there more people doing the same thing that you guys did?
Of course, there were other groups. The problem also was to reach them, to know about them, and try and then reach them. So we tried with the first BBS. We tried to do some phone calls and friend of a friend that were maybe spend vacation in Pescara, but maybe the guy was from Rome and say, another group. So it was hard. Was also fine. Was also fantastic on another side because everything was new and you were invented everything. Maybe other people were doing the same thing, but you didn't know. So for you, it was really the first time. That being said, I'm not a huge fan of people that say, before everything was better. It was not. It was not. It was. We were better. We were younger. So usually when people say that, they miss being young. But the rap scene was less fine than now. There were less ideas. I'm not saying that was less important. Maybe it was also more important in a historical way, we can say. But the result, when we talk about the golden age of LARP, I think the golden age of LARP is today. Today, you can get people, you can spread the voice to any kind of people, different people. You can meet more people. You can have more resources in terms of money, time, creativity to do your stuff. And LARP is more and more taken serious also by institution and stuff, so it's easier. And also we are in our 30s, 40s, so for us as a group of organizers, we are also very diverse in terms of age, but we are all adults from the 20s, 30s, 40s and stuff. It means that you can be taken serious from someone that maybe you can rent your location. We were like 13, 14, 15. Nobody wanted to deal with us, and so it was not easy. You get frustrated sometimes, but at the same time, you needed nothing to be super happy. So now, what is exciting now for me is how diverse LARP scene is, how many games you can have, and how different they are. And also, what I found fantastic is now, if you start from scratch, you have a lot of resources already, a lot of example. You can follow or not follow them, and you also have example of things gone wrong. But it doesn't matter. It's easier for you to have an idea of what it is. You can start your design your lab with more with videos, with books, with articles, talking with the more experienced organizer, and this is fantastic. This means you don't have to reinvent everything from scratch, and so the evolution is going faster than back in the days. Back in the days, we have like one thing that was new in 5 years. Here, you have new things every month.
I kind of noticed that, for example, a few weeks ago when you did the online LARP festival, all those online LARPs that you did were so different from one another. They all had different theme, different way of being played, different like hooks, and it was way more diverse than I thought. Because, as I said, I had no notion of what LARP was because there was. I don't know if it's because France does not represent it that much, or if it's because I was not keeping an ear out for what existed, but I had no idea that there was so many things. And even now, after doing one, I'm not exactly sure how I can describe that to the people I know that have never been in that thing, because I can explain facts like I have been there, we have done that and stuff like that, but it doesn't really represent like the LARP experience. You know what I mean? Like how would you describe LARP to somebody who has never done it?
Okay. There are different ways to explain. I will go with the simplest one, and then I will go with the more poetic one. So the simplest one, which is not wrong at all, is basically you pretend to be a character, to be someone else, by embodying that. So it means that you will have different costume. If you want to use your body, you can have a different way of talking or moving, and this character is immersed in a fictional world, in a setting that is embodied in space by a location. So basically, you are pretending to be someone else in a space and time that were done mainly by the organizer to give you the idea of being there, and you will live the life of this person, and by doing that, you will interact with the other. So basically, is a way to stay together, to participate in a story, in a setting, and just be someone else. On a more poetical / technical level, I would say that is a kind of experience where you will mainly act with someone else. By act, I don't mean just use your body. I mean doing things. It can be talk, it can be have an emotion, it can be help someone else. But show don't tell is the first rules of LARP. Usually, there will always LARP is so different that you can have a lot of very good exception to this rule. I'm trying to be simple, to be more clear. But usually in LARP, we need the only way to not be a good LARPer is to not participate in the game. As long as you participate in any way you want, you are contributing to the general experience, and even just doing small thing can be a lot for other. So there is this continuous butterfly effect where even small gestures or small decision or small sentence can be very effective because you are in a responsive context, which means that all the other will react to you. So if you are talking with 10 people and you do something, this something will be amplified by those people and each one will react. So it means you have this kind of prism where you project the light and the prism just spread the light all over the place. So this is another way to explain what LARP is a context where you can do actions by not being entirely yourself, and this action have reaction, and all together we co-create this experience.
And how would you differentiate that from, for example, improv theater? What would be the difference between LARP and that?
The difference with improv theater, I think improv theater is one of the art form that is more close to LARP. If you would say difference between theater and LARP, the first easy thing is actors in theater already knows all the story. They won't change the story. And they have lines, so everything is planned. Of course, there are the interpretation and things can change from a moment to another. But if we go to see Hamlet, we know that everybody will die in the end. Sorry for the spoiler, but yeah, this is the story. So Usually what is different with the improv theater is that you have a more structured character in LARP usually, and but the main thing is that you don't have any audience at all.
Yeah.
Because in improv theater, in almost any art form, you have an audience. It can be a single audience, like in a book, or it can be millions of people, like for movies or big concert or whatever. In LARP, there is no audience. There is someone who is looking at you, and you are performing, let's say, to someone else. But these other are the other player, the other participants. So it means that they will do the same to you. So you can switch a bit, but there is no one just sitting there and stare at you. So this is the first thing. And this simple thing changes everything. Because of course it means that I'm just doing the thing for the sake of the thing, not to be seen from someone else. And this changed my way to act completely. Like in real life, if you do something, being watched is completely different.
Of course. And one thing that I was really surprised about when I started to Google about it, which was 5 minutes after I was done with the first LARP, everybody was telling me about different kinds of LARP, and that did not make sense in my head. A lot of people were talking about Nordic LARP, for example. Like, what exactly are those?
So when we go to taxonomy, of course, it's very hard because each one has his own ideas, and also every taxonomy needs to have a clear purpose. Otherwise, you not just label stuff without any clear idea of what you are doing that. So basically, we have different form and different genre of LARP. So you can have, for example, let's say the most combat one, the most quest driven, or even the GNS module that we use in tabletop, gamist, narrativist, and simulationist. You can use that for LARP. The Turku Manifest in 1999, because LARP scene have write so many manifests you cannot even imagine. Compare how small it is. There are dozens and dozens of very interesting manifestos. And one of the first say that we also like the immersivism. So we had, instead of having a threefold model, we have a four-way models when we use the immersion. So this is one of the idea on the Turku Manifest. And so you can have different kind of LARP. So the LARP can be labeled by style, narrativist, gamist style, or by setting, modern fantasy. When you say Nordic, which is a very tricky label, because when we use Nordic, we know what we are talking about, but at the same time we cannot exactly define what it is. Jaakko Steros, which is a very smart, very good scholar from Finland, say that yes, we all know that what Nordic LARP is, but it's very hard to define. Also because this label is a geographical label. What does it mean Nordic? Everything that comes from north, what north, and of course, by Nordic LARP we mean Scandinavian country. But in Scandinavia there are very different kind of LARP, like everyone else. So to be brief, with Nordic LARP we means this kind of LARP that are more sometimes they are, not sometimes, almost every time are less rule oriented. So you have less rules, and you try to be more. They are not competition usually. We are all together in the same lab to live a story together, to have an experience together, and even if we fight without. Just to foster the story more,
to progress the story itself, and not to
yes.
be on top.
Yes, the play to lose is a techniques that we use sometimes in LARP, which means play to just see the story, don't play to win. And also this play to lose now is more play to lift, which means let's lift each other playing. So we are not in any kind of competition. And also there are another thing is be more interested in tackle adult, let's say, theme or serious or dark or that were not a thing before. You can have this kind of LARP that are set in fictional hospitals or prison, or talk about disease, or even about family dinner, any kind of stuff that usually were not around as a setting for LARP. And also there is also a very interesting attention to safety and inclusivity. Also, this we'll talk about that later, I think. But also, this is one of the aspects, because sometimes you put yourself in danger by living this experience. So usually designers try to help you out to not get really hurt as a person, but just a character. And also, when we talk about Nordic LARP, we talk about this kind of wave of designer or player, this game philosophy that took place roughly between the end of the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s. It's still a tradition right now, of course, but of course over time. And also because now it's a global thing, so you have people not coming from Scandinavian country that they say that they organize Nordic LARP or Nordic LARP inspired LARP. So it spread a lot. Also because the Scandinavian country was the first one to start write about LARP and organize conferences and books and articles and videos, and also start to do that in English, because they need the common language inside the Scandinavian countries. So then they did that, maybe, I'm not sure, but they did that for themselves, and now it's accessible to everyone that can speak English. So the first corpus of works and reflections about LARP come from this tradition. So they became influential also for this reason. With Chaos League, we are not 100% Nordic LARP, because we came from a different, we developed our story in a different time, in a different space. But of course, we have something in common, some aspects that are clearly the same, and sometimes we share the same audience, the same players. So each one now which is in this scene, is like just doing their own way, but the word still is there, and sometimes it's very useful for definition.
And all those other kinds of LARPs, like for example, the ones who are very battle-oriented or competition-oriented, do they also have labels that like some people can hang on to try to find those specific LARPs?
Also, to not give you a wrong impression, we also have to say that the non-Nordic LARP are the majority in the world. Okay, still, as in tabletop role-playing game, the most common thing in LARP is also medieval fantasy combat or quest oriented. So this is just to say. And so the other LARP are labeled more or less like this kind of genre or techniques. And also, for example, the biggest LARP in the world, the biggest two are in Germany, according to what we know right now. So Conquest of Mythoidea is the biggest one, and is a fantasy LARP. And also Drakenfest, still in Germany, is another big one. And we also Bicolline in Quebec. And all of that are fantasy LARP with tribes, groups, and things to do and stuff to do. So if people want to have a better idea of this other tradition of LARP, they can go and Google that, and you will find a lot of video, picture, reviews, and whatever you need.
When you say the biggest one, how many people are you talking about? Biggest one?
Very bad with numbers, so please help me. It's like 10,000 people.
Holy crap! Okay.
One with 4 zeros.
Holy crap!
Yes,
10,000.
Yeah, but basically I don't remember how long is the LARP. I think it's 6 days or something like that. So, sorry if I'm wrong. And they set up basically a town. You see tents everywhere, and they make like streets and stuff, and you really have the idea of living in a fantasy settlement.
The logistics must be insane. For like that
Yeah.
amount of people, it must be crazy.
Yeah, but if you look at the picture or the video, of course, it's mind blowing. Also, it's very mind blowing. Is also the small kind of LARP, like the one we organized, this style of game, because on the other end, and this is very cool because every format has its own upside that that are great. And for example, we can have a very good idea way to like being work on every details or be astonished, because when you have less player, of course you can go more into the details, and when we have bigger number, the impact is what's matter more. um, so you can find a lot of interesting stuff on the internet to see this kind of different games.
So, whatever the kind of LARP you are playing, you can basically have that for any kind of theme. That's something that I did not really know beforehand because I thought that LARP would automatically equate fantasy, medieval stuff. And turns out, from the moment I started googling that, I saw a lot of vampire theme, a lot of just drama, pure old drama and relationship with people, uh, like post-apocalyptic. There's so many themes different, but you can really have the experience you want with whatever theme you are actually comfortable with. That's it's pretty incredible.
Yes. Like in tabletop, you can have Dungeons and Dragons or Monster Arts or any kind of things in between, or the solo journalist journal kind of RPG. Very vast. For example, in LARP, you can have also a very interesting other format that I like very much in LARP are chamber LARPs, for example. Chamber LARP are another subgenre of LARP where usually is more, yeah, there are something in common with, it's like a sort of hybrid between tabletop and LARP, at least to me. And usually chamber LARP are LARPs, so you play with your body, you embodied your character, and this time you don't have dices or character sheet, or if you have it, they are very short. And you play without any scenography or any costumes.
Okay.
And you can in a room. This is the name chamber LARP came from this. It's like chamber music compared to orchestra. It's not better or worse, it's just different. And also the game usually can last like 3 hours, let's say from 3 to 4 5 hours. 3 hours usually is the average. And also you can have from 2 to 8 people. There are always exceptions, and they are very strong, very compact, very deep emotion. Because with nothing, just play pretend your character. Of course, you will have in this kind of game you have more rules or more meta techniques because you rely less on the external factor. But it's still very good. You can have very strong experience with chamber labs, and there are festivals of chamber lab all across the globe where you can just go there, spend a weekend in a facilities that maybe is rented or in theater or it's a room, and just experience like 2 games per day for a weekend. So you end up in a 3 days like playing 7 LARPs. Small one, but still very well done. And this is also another format I like it. And of course, pandemic stimulate online LARPing because I mean pandemic. Let's just talk about the game, because it's a big topic. But also when we talk about game, pandemic was terrible for board games, not super terrible for RPGs. A lot of people start to playing online, and I mean was still doable. LARP has a big problem because it wasn't possible to meet people in person.
Of course.
So we started here and there on different designer started to do LARP, basically role-playing game where you have to be live that was played on camera, and sometimes we just use the camera to reproduce in game that we were actually doing a video call also in the fiction, or sometimes they use for different setting, different kind of techniques. You have an incredible array of game going from the fake, I mean, a LARP where we are wearing a video call, pretending that to be in a work video call, so the naturalistic one, or like talking with your friends, or you were all butts, so you flip image when you were sleeping, then you go back, and other were to simulate, for example, the sexual arousement that you can lick your ice cream, or the other where you have to like go around into your room or like dress with all your dresses. I mean, we try to do this performative pretending live experience also with camera, and it worked very well. I played and so many interesting things. This is also why we already ran our online
yeah.
festival, even if for now pandemic is not as it was before, but still the online LARPing is alive, and I think is another way to explore in LARP in a very accessible way.
Yeah, and there seemed to be an audience for that. Like all the LARPs were almost completely booked. Some additional groups had to be made, like on the spot. It was incredible.
Yes, and also was a way to meet people that maybe cannot travel for different reason, or play with people in the last Chamber Lab Festival online we did. We had at the same moment playing the same game, the group with people coming from Spain, the US, and Hong Kong playing together. It was fantastic.
Yeah, there was, and really kind of shattered the distance, the walls between people, and like I know that during that festival I went to 3 of the LARPs. It was Faded, which was about Alzheimer's. There was the More Than Friends, that was about like platonic love between friends, and the third one was absolutely amazing. Was the All I Want for Christmas is to cancel the Christmas party, which was, and this is something I really love, is that something as silly as people being grumpy about a Christmas party can be made into a theme for a LARP. That's insane.
I think this is one of the most exciting discover, let's say, of the LARP in recent year, relatively recent year. Yes, understanding that we can do a LARP basically on everything, being safe, being respectful, but almost on everything. And so this broadened our horizon as LARP designer in a tremendous way. So now we know that. And if you imagine that LARP, usually we say that Star LARPs, I don't know, is always tricky, but let's say very end of 70s, very beginning of the 80s. So not that old, less than
50 years, yeah, basically.
Yeah. And it made an incredible development in the last 20 years. It was incredible.
Where do you think that comes from, that development? Was it because they kind of had to find new things, or was it just that we are in a period where people have more imagination or want to try to do some more exotic stuff?
So I have something that I think is true and something that is just a suspicion or a doubt. So I will tell you both. So first idea, I think, is the normal evolution of format. I mean, more and more people get into the activity, and more people bring different things from different background, and then we start to try out different things. For example, of course, Cthulhu was one of the first non-fantasy setting that became a bit popular because it was already a thing for tabletop role playing. And the first LARP where almost everyone was also a tabletop role player. Now it's a bit different. At the time, it was really, a double class, both. And then I have something that maybe is not true, but I want to tell you anyway because I like that it's true. The fact that more and more political theme came into LARP, or social theme, were around the no global movement. No, 1999, 2000, 2001. I'm not sure, I don't have any proof to say that, but for sure I know that LARP organizer, LARP designer lives in the real world. So they get, of course, and also they were young at the time, some of the so young people in this moment, maybe they wanted also, it was the zeitgeist, something that was in the head, and they wanted to put that in the game. Maybe also something. I want to believe.
That's like, what is the craziest theme you have ever seen in LARP? Like something that is completely unexpected.
But that I know, that I played, that I organized it.
Either or. Something that took you by surprise.
What?
Can you still be surprised, like to this day, about like some new
Yes.
coming up?
I'm totally, yes, I think it's totally true, because there are so many things that can surprise you. It can be the setting, or it can be the location, or or it can be the design,
Mhm.
or combination of that. So there are still it's still a young media.
Mhm.
So there is a lot. I'm sure that the most exciting thing are not there right now.
Mhm.
They will come from the future, and the generation of designers will bring new topics on the table, and this is fantastic. Um, yes, something that really blows not only my mind, but let's say the general LARP scene
Mhm.
was the birth, let's say, of the international LARP scene.
Mhm.
Let's say since in a very massive way is something that started like less than 10 years ago,
Mhm.
let's say. Um, so the idea of having a lot of people coming from different parts of the world coming together to have the same kind of experience, or at least trying to find a connection is incredible. It's incredible on so many levels. The first of all, you can have more people, which means that you have more way to do what you want to achieve. But this is on the production level. It is maybe the most evident, but it's not the most important and not the only one. Then in terms of design, it's fantastic because you have people that see your vision and travel across the globe to because they find that cool and they want to help you make it work. Because you can be the best designer in the world, but if you're not allowed people to be active in LARP, your LARP can fall apart very easily. And then also on a social level was fantastic. All these people from different background, different ages, different social condition came together and LARP. Also, this was fantastic, and this start to create a solid base of international player. So now you know as a designer that if you try to do this kind of game, there is already an audience that potentially is interested in your work.
Mhm.
So it means that you receive an incredible support from community, and this support can help you to be brave and to try to achieve your vision because there is already an audience and you can reach it quite easily. Of course, convince them is different, but there are not that many places where international LARP are advertised on the internet. So you can go there and post your stuff and be relatively sure that all the interested people will know that there is this stuff. And this was something incredible. Also, the first international LARP, not the first, but some of the international LARP did things that were impossible to understand in terms of yes of location of techniques, rules, design. And I can talk for my experience as member of Chaos League with our Sahara expedition LARP. We get incredible interest by international players.
Yeah, let's talk about Sahara for a sec because that was something that really got me surprised because the way I got to know Chaos League was just through a Facebook ad for the Miskatonic University. I was basically the target audience. I love tabletop RPGs, I love Lovecraft. It had to come up, of course. And when I started to look at the other things you have done, I saw the Sahara expedition. I was like, "Oh, cool! They made like a theme about like an expedition. That's an interesting concept." Then I saw the pictures and realized you actually went to the Sahara, and I am still kind of shocked at the like to this point. Like, how did you end up organizing such a thing? Because it's huge to actually go in the desert to LARP.
Yeah, I will try to make it short because it's a long story that started
No worries.
where some of us were in the south of Tunisia for a travel. And of course, when you are a LARPer and you see a cool environment, a cool location, you say, "Oh, I'd like to do a LARP here." You know, it's like you cannot help. It's something that comes to your mind naturally. So some of us said, "Oh, come on, the desert is fantastic." It was our first time in the desert, so the vast, everything was immense, infinite, with the sands and the stars and everything. So the idea was, what about doing a LARP here? But we were around 16, and only the idea to came from another town to LARP was impossible. So we say, okay, it's just a fantastic dream. It will never happen. And then we wait more than 20 years and say, maybe this year now, maybe this year now. And then we say, okay, look, let's just try it. If people won't sign up, at least we know that we need to stop the dream.
Mhm.
Oh, I remember clearly we were at my place with some other Chaos League member, and we wrote this post that was very, not kind of very advertising post. On a marketing point of view, is like breaking all the rules because it was like, look, guys, we have this fantastic dream. We really want to achieve that, but we don't know whether you want to join us or not. So there is no ticket selling, no web page. If you are interested, just give us your email. If enough people will send us their email, maybe we will make it true, make it doable.
Mhm.
Then we posted that and we went out for a beer. And like 1 hour after, I received a phone call from another member of Chaos League that were not in the bar with us and were at the computer and say, guys, you really need to come back here because we had 1,000 people in the first hour.
I'm sorry,
So
what?
yes,
Wow.
we received pre-sign up from 1,000 people in 1 hour, and then we went back, home, opened the computer, and the post was shared from so many people, and there were so many comments, and some people were thinking that they were not true. Some other believe us, someone just was curious. But then we tried to communicate with those people. Yes, we will do it. We know how to do it, at least we know how to try to do it. So it will be the actual Sahara Desert in the south of Tunisia, believe us. And then we show picture and we put up the web page, and of course we already have worked on the story, on the stuff. And so we did it, and we had 4 runs in the Sahara Desert,
Mhm.
and people were super excited. We were super excited, so we went there. And it was a in the Cthulhu Mythos world. So it was this expedition into the Sahara to searching the previous expedition that went lost.
Mhm.
And so with trying to find the fantastic mythical town of Zerzura. So we wanted to find them. So basically, the lab was about being to the Sahara Desert, doing archaeological work, doing findings, and then work also to reach trying to reach the other that
Mhm.
were lost months before. We were like 100 player and then 20 people of staff and then also 20 camels, and so we were all in the desert larping for 3 days, and it was a lifetime adventure, to be honest. Um, and then people were super excited. Then we say also that maybe a prequel would have been cool, and so this is why we have Miskatonic University,
Th-
basically.
This is absolutely insane to imagine because even from a purely logistical standpoint, uh, the insurance or like the location or the staff, the camels, I can't even begin to imagine like
Yes.
how many
Yeah.
days, weeks, and months you have spent trying to
I
organize
was in
that.
the logistic team, and the logistic has been both a fantastic adventure and a terrible nightmare at the same time. I will just give you some most funny moment that happened.
Yeah.
Uh, Talking with the camel guy, which was a guy from the region, so was not able to speak any kind of language, not even Arabic. He speak a local dialect.
Hmm.
So it was impossible for us or our guy to communicate with him. So I had personally to communicate with this guy, telling him, this day we need you and 20 camels in this exactly place. Um, so I tried to explain, and the guy took a stick and put the stick into the sand and say, "This is the meeting point." In 3 weeks, they say,
Okay.
"Okay, we will never get it." So we went after with all the players.
Hmm.
The stick was there, and the guy was there. Exactly.
Really?
Yes, and he was very sorry because instead of 20 camels, he had 25s. I say,
Oh,
"Oh, come on, five
we
more. It's
forgive you.
Yes, exactly. And also, what else happened? Yeah, we had a problem with fake guns
Hmm.
at the customs. So they
Mm.
say you entered at the country, even if it was clear that was fake.
Hmm.
Big problems. I will make it short.
Hmm.
We didn't have any fake gun here. It
Mm.
was a problem because we had some characters that were military.
Ah.
We needed 20 rifles. So can you imagine me? doing phone calls to Tunis weapon shop and try to have fake guns. I remember one guy say, "Hey, come on, stop with this. We don't have this, but for the same price, we can give you the real one." I was like, "Sorry, yes, you can have 20 real one from the for the same price, but I don't have any
Permit.
permission." "Ah, we don't care, just took it." I say, "No, no." And so we found, luckily, a theater company that had fake guns,
Hmm.
and they borrow us. It was nice. Just to give you an idea of how complex it was. But we made it. And I remember the commentary of one of the player after the last run we had in October. The question was not uh, bravo. He just say, how the fuck you think that would have been possible to do a lap here near?
Hmm.
Bravo to do it. I want to know who was the insane person that had this idea. And we saw each other. We say, "I'm sorry, guys. Every all of us." We are all in this together. So this was the Sahara, the Sahara.
But
That's
even though it was really hard to organize and everything, you seem to keep a very, very fond memory of it. It seems to have been an incredible experience.
yeah. This is for many reasons. The first reason, too many two reasons. The first one is the players are super supportive,
Hmm.
super nice. The LARP international LARP community is amazing. Try it if you haven't, because they are super welcoming. It's very easy to get in. It is very easy for organizer, as long as you are in good faith, of course,
Hmm.
to be helped by them and to receive good feedback, and everything is great. And the other thing that makes us happy, even in working hard, is that basically with Chaos League we are a bunch of friends that were friends before going to LARP.
Hmm.
So friendship comes first for us. And I know that everyone in the team is like family to me, and vice versa. So I can rely on them totally. And I know that if I'm stressed or burnout or any kind of problem, someone else will help me take my place, listen to me. And even if you don't use this safety net, even just knowing that you have it, like,
Hmm.
multiplicate your strength by 10 times.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah, just
fantastic.
just the fact that you are feeling safe and taken care of, you know that you can do it because you know you have the support from the rest of the team and even the players. That's one thing that I really gathered from my experience at Miskatonic is how much everybody was so supportive. I was really afraid when I came in that being a full-on newbie, that the people who were doing that for like 10, 20 years would be, a little bit blasé or a little bit, oh my god, another one who doesn't know what he's doing, But it was the complete opposite. All of them were extremely supportive. All of them were trying to like give, a little bit of momentum to whatever I was trying to do, or like to try to lift, as you said earlier, like play to lift, and even right after the LARP ended and we were just talking about everything and anything, all of them were just, hey, did you have a good time? Beware of what's going to happen next. Just try to like take it slow and everything. Everybody was so nice and wholesome, and that really really impressed me. And still to this day, I still talk to a lot of them, and uh, they're among the best people I know. Like the
Yeah.
very very open-minded, respectful of everything. This is something that was really really evident, for example, in the online festival, because there was also people from literally any kind of countries, and all of them had the same commonality, being we are respectful of who you are, what you do, or what you are trying to express. And
Yes.
that probably very much helped me have like a good experience in that. On that
Yeah.
note, by the way, since especially for example for Miskatonic or for other projects that are very drama oriented or very hard themes, one thing that you really really put forward during the LARP was safety, whether it be like physical safety or emotional safety. And this is something I didn't even really consider that much before. through tabletop RPGs, we were talking about, lines and veils and this kind of stuff to make sure that we don't step on anyone's, sensitive zone. But you went a little bit beyond that. Like, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes. So sometimes we believe that safety are a set of measures, but I think measures or rules for safety are just one of the many parts that constitute the safety. The most important thing, I mean, those are the brakes, the emergency brakes when something is going wrong. But we have other fantastic tools to prevent more of the unpleasant thing to happen. So it means building trust and community is the first step to have a safe event at all. Because if you communicate with your participant that some things won't be tolerated, this is already doing safety. And it's just a speech, but this speech set everyone mentality on the right way. So if you say this is not allowed, this is not cool, this maybe you don't realize, but it's not good for other people.
This could
So
be a trigger for someone that you don't even
yes,
realize.
yes. So don't criminalize people who are not aware of what safety is, but at the same time try to explain what it is. And then all of these are just tools to the goal, which is building trust. We need trust in LARP because this is different from tabletop. We play mainly with strangers. Tabletop, we usually play with our bunch of friends. Or LARP is always, let's say, this kind of LARP like Miskatonic, you play with 100 people. You don't know the majority of them, who they are. So we need to build communal trust with people that never seen each other before.
Even also, worse, the only things you know about them is not even them, it's their characters, which makes it even worse to like try to be respectful of that.
Totally. And also, on top of that, with those people, you will play intense emotional stories. It's not just, very superficial one. So basically, can you imagine the challenge? You are a perfect stranger, and we will play that we are in a manipulative relationship where I love you and you mistreated me, Whoa, without having a real heart of that. So you can only achieve by trust. So this means a good communication from the organizer, set of rules like safe word or other techniques when something goes wrong, but also pre-game negotiation or calibration, both before being on location and on location before start the actual LARP. So you need to communicate months before the LARP. What are the rules for this LARP? What is the environment you want? What kind of person should come to this LARP or not come for this LARP? Because if you advertise your LARP that is suitable for everyone, basically you are is something that you
can achieve. Yeah.
So you should be very clear on what kind of thing to come to this LARP or not. And then the workshop before the LARP are super important because it's where the people actually meet in person. And so organizers need to facilitate that very well, and players need to be very active because the trust can be only built all together. But when you get that, then the magic happens. Because when this is the most political part of me talking, but basically this is a revolutionary thing that LARP can bring. Other stuff can do it, but I'm talking about LARP right now. So people coming together and doing the same stuff, trusting each other without knowing each other for a communal goal, I call it a social change. It's temporary, it's a LARP, but the LARP ends. But your emotion, your experiences will stay with you forever. So when you do a LARP and the LARP is well done on this perspective, you will have with you forever the feeling of what it is to live in this utopian society. And try to reproduce a bit in your real life if you want it. So this for me is the best thing. So this is why we need safety. We can maybe is not the best word. I give that. Maybe trust would have been better.
Mm.
But let's say it doesn't matter. What count is people look after each other.
Mm.
This
Yeah.
is once you do that, you can LARP on everything, and all your LARP will be more or less good because people will help each other and they will foster the game all together. And no matter cool you are as a designer, 100 people with 100 different minds can do better than you.
Mm.
So you can create the context, give them the sparkle, but then they will develop everything. So if they do on the same line, trusting each other,
Yeah.
then
That really sets up like a whole thing. Like for instance, knowing that there were like a lot of ways to feel a little bit safer. For example, having the safe rooms. Just I didn't get the need to use them, but knowing they were there already made so much of a change. You know, knowing that if at some point I feel a little bit too much, I can just go there, isolate, and just chill down for a second. And that helped a lot to try to, you know, take that in a more healthy way. And you were talking about trust, and this is something that was really impressive. I remember that when you released the names of who is going to play what character, within 15 minutes, the person who was supposed to have my main connection with my character contacted me on Facebook saying, "Hey, nice to meet you. We need to talk about safety for this one because it's a very unhealthy relationship." You were talking earlier about manipulative and you know, like very unhealthy relationship. This is exactly what it was, and talking about it way before ended up us having some extremely intense scenes and very hard and could be extremely triggering. But once the LARP ended, the first reflex was not like to just like exhale or something. It was to like find each other and give us a hug because, oh my god, you were amazing. You like let me do the scene how I wanted to. It was incredible, and it was this feeling of, you know, like very much caring about the other person, even though you had no idea who the other person is, and that sort of like trust that you cannot really explain, but that is there. It's very weird to explain.
yeah, yeah, because Messi also there is a part of that, of course, because the experience just ended, so you are very emotional, and
Mm-hmm.
also you someone that helps you to have this fantastic experience. But also there is also a part of rewarding in this because like we made it, you
Mm-hmm.
know, 8 months before we think we try to work to have an intense but safe experience, and then we manage and we did it. So we deserve a big hug because
Mm.
we did it. Also, this is part of this, and also you became friend or very close to what friendship is. I think
Yeah,
I
you kind of
freeze.
froze.
But you know, talking with someone about what you want to achieve is not that one of the best form of friendship or being helpful or whatever. And also, just to name some of these practical techniques. So you have for safety, you have workshop, pre-game communication. In game, you can have safe room. Yes, as you told, you can have safety words that, for example, you can say, okay, I need to break up from this scene. So you use the safe word that you can leave the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And a safety team. So some of the all the organizers are taking care of you, but some of them are more attentive to what is happened to the game to come and help you if something went wrong. And also, very important, we forgot to mention, is the after game the rolling
Yes.
on the bridges
Yes.
to land softly after the experience, because safety is not only against something that can happen or someone can tell you, but even you and yourself. You know, you can be very unsafe to yourself by being mean to yourself,
Mm.
self-judging, or not being able to differentiate you from your character. You know, in this
Mm-hmm.
case, with the debriefing and you can do this together with the other, and there is a way, a lot of activity, collective activity that helps you to get rid of the character slowly, to not be to not have this as a traumatic experience.
Yeah,
I,
this is probably one of the workshops that surprised me the most. Is oh, and I think he's back. Hold up. Please wait for technical difficulties. Please enjoy my face in the meantime. This should not be long, you guys. Just technical stuff.
can hear you, but I think you cannot see me.
Yeah, I cannot see you yet, but I can hear you. Yeah, like for the people watching right now, one of the workshop that I was so like surprised by was right after the LARP was done, like the very next day before we were coming home, there was a whole workshop about how to safely disconnect from your character, and it was really not made in a way that was, like this is done, just like move on and go to something else. No, it was very much more in a feeling of this character that you played is somebody that you met, that you have spent some time with, that you can keep in touch with if this could bring something to your life. But right now it's time that you go your separate ways for the time being. And just this small, like 1 hour workshop, not even 1 hour, I'm not even sure, made all the difference, because we ended up releasing so many emotions in like half a second. Everybody was crying, but it was so healthy. And yeah, I had no idea that this kind of thing would be a thing. It's very, very interesting. Huh. Camera seems to not agree. Oh yeah, you're back, but I cannot hear you at the moment.
Okay, now I think everything is okay.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of we can hear you. A lot of people are actually comparing now like video calls to seance with a Ouija board, saying like, "Can you hear me now? Can you give me a sign?" This is exactly what it has become now.
Which happened a lot in Miskatonic University.
It did. There actually was like seances. I don't want to spoil anything because it was absolutely amazing, but I really enjoyed the fact that like you found ways to actually have a seance and like give answers through that. It was the whole experience was absolutely incredible, and
also to give an idea of who is listening to us, that Miskatonic University was another LARP which was in the Cthulhu Mythos setting, and where we play the fictional university that the author H.P. Lovecraft invented for his novel. And so basically, in this game, we rented this fantastic castle that Lionel has as a background. We play actually in this big castle in Poland, and we dress this castle up like it was a traditional and very ancient and very important university in New England. So it means that majority of players will play students, and some of them will play professor of the Miskatonic University. So they had to follow classes, to do workshops and researches, and to try to discover this very dark and Cthulhu mythos story. Why? While living their own stories as students at the university. So you can imagine very easily how the university life is, the secret party, or your society, or your friend and your enemies, or try to get the bad note from the professor, this kind of stuff. So you have this layer or slice of life LARP, the campus of an exclusive university, and at the same time you have this dark dissonance always in the background, the ancient old one trying to get into the world as they do usually, and also of course some special effects. So basically we spent 3 days there doing
for the people who would like to see the location, here's a little picture of the castle that we went to. It was in Poland, like 3 hours away from Berlin or something. 3 hours, 4 hours, I don't remember. But this place was absolutely bonkers. It was beautiful, and even getting there, seeing some Miskatonic University pennants and banners and everything made it so immersive, and it was crazy impressive. And yeah, the whole thing felt really immersive. At no point did I realize that there was a world outside, because yeah, when you had the setting, the props, because there was a lot of wonderful props and everybody in costume. Holy crap, you guys, that was incredible. I'm actually going to show like just a few pictures from the run, just so you can get a little idea. No, that's not the right. There's the one. You are among my first my first result because I spent way too much time on that picture gallery. But hold up, let me just move that a little. Oh, no. Everybody was in amazing costumes. There was a lot of events, a lot of things happening, and it was a whole thing, and so immersive. All the thing. That happens to be me.
Yeah. Yeah, and also this is part of what remains after the LARP, which is always a question, you know. You have memories, you have picture, you have sometimes some memorabilia, some ephemera, some writing, but LARP is still something you experience. It's still an experience more than
It really
other.
much is. It's
Yes.
yeah, we really
And
lived
this
through
is
some
yeah,
incredible stuff.
and this is something that is the good and the bad side at the same time, because it's fantastic that you can live this, and this experience is just for the people who are there and will never reproduce the same. But at the same time, you know, someone say that LARP is like a mandala, you know, this fantastic work that you spend so many time, then you enjoy, and then the wind just disperse everything. Now we are better and better at documenting LARP. So we can have theoretical writing, in-game documents, picture. More and more we talk in public about LARP. But it's still, of course, the most shocking part is the experience being there and just you living this story that never been. And this is also this idea of something so subtle for me is one of the best feeling.
One of the things that a lot of long-time LARPers were telling me about after it was done was the bleed. And this is a concept that I had no idea existed. I had a feeling that it would be, hard for me not to let me transpire through my character, but I had no idea that this could also go the other way afterwards. And the fact that everybody was so very focused on making sure that you are aware of that this could happen, that you should probably take a few days to just chill and process those emotions, was very helpful because I was emotional for 2 to 3 days and I was a wreck. But the good kind of it,
Yeah, I think there is, to explain what it is to people who never experience or play at a LARP, we can rely on something similar experience that are not the same, but let's say similar. For example, you know, the end of your favorite saga of book, where maybe you empathize with the characters, with the protagonist so much. When you close the last page of this saga that maybe last years, then you feel this strong emotion, you know, like it was your own story, like your story now is over, so what I'm gonna do now. And also there is something that happened when you have a fantastic vacation or fantastic trip, then you go back to your ordinary life and you miss what you miss. You miss the different time schedule of the day, the different experience, the different people that maybe you met during the travel. So all of these combined are something that sometimes you provoke this bleed. Also, the most important thing is you are not yourself, you are playing a character, so you are modifying a bit your being, and there is a lot of pressure on bleed, so I will try to make it short. You can experience the bleed in or the bleed out. The bleed in way is when your character, you put a lot of you in your character, and so maybe your character will like a bit different because you are like in rage. So you put this rage in your character, and your character will be a bit different from what it was planned. And also the bleed out is very hard. It can be very intense because I'm a peaceful guy. I will play a violent guy for 3 days, and these things will bleed on me because you have this relationship with the character. I mean, you're like an actor sometimes with the character. If you play a very strong role, you can experience some modification on your psychology, on your way of being. So So there are a lot of techniques or meta technique or workshops. You can find it on nordiclarp.org. There is a lot of good example to help you dealing with the bleed. Some people also talk about the LARP blues, which is some just missing this. Of course, will make you a bit sad maybe the last day. So there are some very practical things from take care of yourself, eat chocolate or whatever in the most simple way, or there are more complex way. But all of that cooperate to make you understand that now the LARP is over, but the decay time is longer experience. So you need to do that. And the bleed also happen more in LARP than in other forms because there is your body in it. Because it lasts long, days and days and days in a row. And because you are with others. So all of this amplification can gives you this, which is also on the other side one of the best thing in LARP. Having this strong emotion is also what we want in this kind of LARP. But then of course it comes with a price and we need to work on that. And if we achieve, and most of the time we do, we have the best experience because we have the good sides, trying to minimize the downsides, not denying this, but trying to make it more sustainable.
Or making sure that that people are going to deal with it in the healthy way. How did you come up with those sort of workshops, and is it through trial and error, or did you talk to I don't know, some psychologists, or how did you come up with them?
It comes from different sources. Of course, there is your experience, your trial and error, of course, your experience. Then, of course, there is luckily also the possibility to more and more. This is one of the things we talked before that is exciting today. We can talk with other LARP organizers. What have you done in your LARP? Do you have any cool suggestion for a workshop or for a safety workshop or for a debriefing? This and this. So there is a big exchange because if you are in the LARP scene, maybe other organizer and you can ask them, or you can just play something as a player instead of as an organizer, see something cool and say, maybe I can work on this, or maybe I can ask them if I can use it or reinterpret it on my way. And there are books, and there are also there are LARP conferences all over the world. One of the most known is called Knutpunkt. It changes name every time because each year is held in a different.
I think this year is in Denmark, right?
This year will be in Scandinavia. Knutpunkt, I think. So sometimes you have big.
That's why I had trouble finding it because the name changes. Okay, I was struggling to find the actual website.
Sorry about my accent is Knutpunkt, or Solmukota when it's in And so this is a meeting point, not the only one, but the biggest one for sure, at least in Europe, when you can meet other player, other organizer, and you have days and days of workshops, talks, and practical examples, or just informal conversation, non-formal conversation, and you can learn a lot. So all the knowledge can be circulate and can become handy for your LARP. Then sometimes there are also specialists, like some LARPers are psychologists in their life, so they can give you some example. Of course, we need to be very clear. A LARP organizer is not a psychologist, and LARP is not a good moment to have a therapy. But it's always very useful to have insight from professional and to something without pretend to be professional, but being someone responsible as much as your capacity to help people when needed, or to create a easy environment to be in.
Because there were some elements in those workshops that seemed very specific. For example, in the one where we were separating from our characters, the one run by Stefano and Mikhail, we had to draw a spiral on the middle of the sheet, and that seems so very specific that I was wondering where you came up with that, or where somebody came up with that. So
So yeah, because also something that we need to clarify is, um, at least according to us, to Chaos League, everything you do has to be consistent with the design of your LARP. So if you copy paste each time the same debriefing, of course it cannot be efficient in any possibility, in any case, sorry. It's like having a dress. It's not the dress that will help you in any moment of your life. Okay, the dress you use for work, the dress you use to play basketball or to get married or to go to a funeral or to go to your best friend, you cannot do with the same thing. I mean, you can, but
Yeah.
you know. So is the same workshop. Everything in the lab should be consistent with the design and with the theme. So if my lab talk about that and the design is doing that way, I need this, and this. So in the case of Miskatonic, we did an after game set of activity that were consistent with your experience in the game. For example, the spiral was an idea to give you this idea of endless search, and other example. So I'm happy you noticed that.
And did you always do that, or when did you start actually implementing those kind of workshops?
No, in the very beginning we didn't, because everything was by tradition, by without any formal moment. I mean, everything we know how to do it. Then we started slowly by need to we needed the player to be more aware of certain things before the game. And once again, the design made us to do it, because we started to do a design that were very interesting, but was made impossible to player to just get in and start to play. Because we changed the tradition and we wanted player to have the tools to do that with us. So we cannot rely any longer on a well-established tradition. So we say, look, before going to the game, please hear us talk 30 minutes. At the beginning it was a shock for the player, but then they found that useful. And then instead of half an hour, it became 1 hour, and then became 2 hours, and then became 4 hours and the day before, and then became 10 days before, maybe online meeting, just to give you. So now we stretched the LARP experience, because sometimes, not every time, but sometimes we need player to know stuff before and also to get into the spirits of the game, which is also building trust. So yes, so it's a process. We did it over time, and the same goes for the post-game activity.
And all of that was with the Chaos League as a team. Was it like the same people that you have started it in the early 90s, or did you have some new additions, or people who could not make it anymore?
So we want and we manage have this structure as a collective. So I cannot exactly tell you all the members of Chaos League, because I don't even know. Some of us are here from the day zero. Some quit because real life caused problems, but a small minority. But still, they can help in other ways. And then we had more people join us during in the last years, and also it was fantastic because you need. I mean, I'm very happy about how diverse is the team right now in terms of age, gender, sexual orientation, different backgrounds in all the general stuff, and it's very beneficial for us to be very different, but with the same purpose. So yes, and also it changed from project to another. Maybe not everyone is in every project. So, for example, Miskatonic, we were 12 people on location, but we had more people that help us before the game, and next round there will be different people on location. Let's say that all in all the people that made Miskatonic on different level, on different degree of time, there were a bit less than 20 people, 15, 18 people.
Wow.
So we need to play. We wrote 113 character, and each one was like 4 or 5 page longs. And then we wrote all the in-game props, the telegrams, and the newspaper, and we did the audio, write the text and recording, and then the audio thing, and talk with the location and talk with the bus driver and manage everything. Basically, we do anything by our own. We didn't have any external thing apart from the location, of course. But everything was made by Chaos League, so we need a big team to do that. And also, it's more pleasant to play with a lot of friends.
We talked a little bit with Stefano during the post-LARP briefing, like on the day it ended, and he was telling me a little bit about like how you wrote the different backstories and how you like started with the concept, because 113 characters to write down, each with their own story, each like with their own threats that is not the same for everyone. That must have been like a writing extremely interesting experience, but also super complicated to like coordinate.
Luckily, we are more and more experienced, so yes, it was not easy, but it was still doable, and we were in charge, and nobody went crazy about that. Also, because the design was very clear, the idea was we want to have some part of the game that are fixed, that you more than they are not there for you to interact, they are there to give you props, give you feedback, give you feelings. So some of the elements were there to stimulate your reaction, and we want that to be generation of things that you as a character you will like do the filter, and then put in action something that were suggested you by your source, then you re-elaborate, and then you put that into the game. This was part of the game. For example, everything that was close related to the plot or to the sarcophagus stuff. You are not allowed to do something to the sarcophagus, but sarcophagus gives you a lot of things to play on. And then we put a lot of free game, like for example, everything that were related to the society, because each character belonged to a society, and then everything that was related to your relationship, people you like, you dislike, or your degree at school, everything of that was in your hands, 100%. So once you know that, the LARP becomes a more clear structure to you as an organizer. So you know what to do in this section, what to do in the other section, and in having in your mind possible player reaction on the more fixed element, and trying to not have any expectation of your behavior in the free game, because we want you to say, oh, now they will do that. This is the free part of the game. So we give you the tool, for example, the telegram telling you that something happened in your family, and then it's up to you to
like what are you going to do with it? Yeah.
Yes.
So all of it was not necessarily to guide where everyone is going to go, but more like putting them in a good mindset for them to go their own way.
Yes. And in your run, for example, some people react in a very evident way to some a news in the newspaper. Some other themselves and did this sort of inner play, and both were okay, because there was a different reaction of stimuli. So was exactly what we had in mind.
There was a lot of elements in the setting, the props, and the like overall scenery of it that felt very cinematic. I'm not going to get into details because of spoilers, but it felt really cinematic and very, very deep experience. Do like any of you within the team have some actual cinema or like this kind of media experience?
Yes, some of us came from an art background, and kind of can be theater, can be cinema or music or whatever, or related fields. So it means that we always have this artistic approach in our mind. So we want everything to function, to be well designed, but also to be nice to see and nice to interact. And also, in this particular case, we were very happy to cooperate with some local artists.
Okay.
There is a company which is called Wonderlab, and we talk with them and we arrange some of the props and the special effects with them. For two reasons. The most important one is we wanted to have a connection with the local scene. We don't want to just take our idea, our LARP, our players to Poland, just play the game and then run away. We wanted to be there. We wanted to cooperate with them to do something good as possible in our capacity for the local scene. So this is also why we cooperate with local artists, and we have, if I don't know if you noticed, but we had some Polish LARPer come and help us. Some were player,
Okay.
non-players game. Julia, we also did picture. She's from Poland.
Okay. I thought she was part of the team actually.
She was. She
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
She didn't write the LARP with us, but we want people to help us. We want us to learn from them and mix up different tradition and also have this more clear connection with the local scene, because I think it can be beneficial for both on so many.
All right. And like from the past experience, I saw a lot of very different themes. There was the Sahara, there was the Miskatonic. I saw one about Wall Street.
Yes.
It seemed to be a fun one.
Yeah, we did it once. We will rerun in the future for sure. And in this game, we said we I'm very happy because we started with a very clear answer. And say, what about doing a LARP about this? For example, we say, are we in our society so goal-oriented that we can do whatever it takes to reach your goal? And if you manage, was that worth? Starting from this question, we imagined the story of a young broker agency in the roaring 80s that were roaring for Wall Street, of course, the moment where it was very easy to do stock option and selling, by phone, this small stock option to normal people, let's say, and then try to do that. And the idea is a very experimental and crazy one. It's played entirely in office. It lasts 2 days, and there is a lot of techniques. For example, players are divided in groups that belongs to animals. You have the rhinos, the vulture, the snakes, stuff. It means that this person in the zoo of Wall Street, where everyone is a beast for the profit, act a bit like this animal. So the rhinos are the more rough one. The snakes are people that are trying to be manipulative, and so on and so on. And you start the game being, the start of the game is your first day at the office. And then you have jump in time. The LARP is divided in chapter. So in the last chapter, in the second days, months and months have passed. And you are more used to, you are less human and more an animal. And so little by little, we start to put on you some animals elements. So in the last scene, you are an animal, and you are a rhino or a snake, and everyone in the office, you are no longer allowed to speak. You can just do the sound of your animals, and you can just move like your animals. So in the last scene, you have these 50 animals on a desk trying to sell in stock option. They can not even longer talk. It doesn't matter. We just want to at any cost. Yeah,
that's an incredible concept. Was that only with Italian people, or was it international?
We did it in Italian, but we want to do the international run. And another very cool techniques that I like in this LARP is you mainly work on your phone, try to sell the stock option. But we also know that we're human beings. So even if I know that I'm doing something that is morally wrong for me, if it's my duty in a LARP, I will try to do it. I will empathize with the guy. If I manage to sell you stock options that are basically scam, I feel this sense of rewarding. And so this is normalizing something that should not be. So to avoid this sort of Stockholm, what was the name?
Stockholm syndrome.
Syndrome.
Mhm.
Yes. Um, you switch character, which means in the call you are the seller. In the second one, go into an off-game room where there is full of phone. You play the other guy, so you see how you scam people, but then you are scammed, and so you feel also the other part of the barricades. And so the LARP is played on so many levels on this thing.
So
And
really
so
experience the whole spectrum of like emotion that come from manipulating and being manipulated.
exactly.
Wow. And so like I saw that, for example, Miskatonic, you have 7 runs planned.
Yes.
I think that Secrets We Keep, you have already 4, if I'm not mistaken.
Secret We Keep, we have 3, 2 in Italian and 1 in English. So the Secret We Keep is our next LARP, basically, that we played this year. We will play it twice in Italian in May and 1 in English at the last weekend of September. So from the 30th of September, I think, to the 1st of October. And it's the story of a bunch of orphans that used to live together in the same orphanage, and they were each other families. So they were abandoned in this small
Convent, I think it was.
orphanage, which is a convent, which is a very nice convent close to Florence. So it's a very good location. And the idea is that they form a band because nobody wants to adopt them. So they try to stick together. So they band, but one of them, the smallest one, the youngest one, died 20 years ago. And we never know why. But this, of course, caused the closing of the orphanage, and we were split up in other facilities, and we never seen each other. So they meet each other for the first time 20 years after. So the game is played on a sort of Stephen King, It or Stand By Me mood, you know. It's very bittersweet because I knew that you were my family, but at the same time you are now stranger because 20 years I
Everybody
know who
has
you are.
moved on.
Yes, but at the same time, what happened when you meet your bunch of old friends? You talk about the good times, the past, let's say. And in the past, you have good memories and bad memories, also because it was a childhood. So everything start to work again. And also they will find out, there is no spoiler, they will find out what happened to Tommy, that was the guy who died when we were young. So it's a sort of the present you and the past you, and so redo that. And the next run is almost sold out, but still not. So there are still some available place spot if someone want to do it. There is a website, and it's very emotional. It's very played on friendship and on what happened. And we already ran it 10 times, so it's a very well tested game. This will be, yes, the English one will be the 10th run, and we have also the 11th run already filled, but this is in Italian. So is played on a lot. On this is set in the 80s, so this is this 80s 90s. There is not a precise date. It's like your past. It is a past that never been, which is a mix up of everything, because what counts in this LARP is the memory, and how the memory sometimes failed us. Maybe I remember you as a nice guy, but then we are talking about our good time, and then another person come into the conversation and remember me that sometimes you were very mean to me. And sometimes we deform our memory, we change it to move on, but maybe things they are not exactly how we remember.
Yeah, sometimes
So
we idealize some of the memories we had and realize now that we're grown up and that we kind of reflect on it, that it was not as good as we thought.
yeah, and sometimes we need someone else, or to have this different point of view, or so meeting all your childhood friend will change also what you think was okay, and the story was for everybody wants to move on, but the wound is still open, and we need to close it up all together. And this will happen during the LARP.
Okay, so for the people who are watching right now, I put the link in the chat if you want to snatch one of the few remaining spots. And do not give me any shade about it being too far or something. For Miskatonic, we were in Poland and some people were coming from the US. That really blew my mind. By the way, I did not expect that at all. So yeah, please come. And I know that some people would like to know: is there going to be a new Sahara run at some point?
Yes, we want to run it again, and we really hope to do it next year. There is not a 100% sure information, so I cannot tell you any date. But
But there is hope.
yes, there is hope. There is hope, and some phone calls are already being done. So we are working on it, and of course, you will know it. And also, we are not done with our Cthulhu Mythos thing because we never know. You never know, but usually stories are trilogies, and we have just 2 episodes so far. So nothing is set and in stone, but for sure we are thinking about a third closure episode. But now let's stick with the Sahara, and we will try to do it, and we will give you.
Just as a note, France is a pretty place for a Cthulhu thing. Like, come, do it like here. It would be easier.
Yes, why not? Why not? Whenever is a cool location, and we do a LARP in it.
That's amazing. Well, before I let you go, I've bothered you enough for today. Do you have like one like over the top best memory that since you have been doing or organizing LARPs?
I have so many, of course, but I think one is yeah. Uh, we were in the we were playing a lab that it was called 6030 and was set during the Black Plague in the 6030.
Okay.
And it's this very cool village in Italy, and we were playing the life of this community. And so this community was trying to hide themselves because they want to protect from the Black Plague, but at the same time there were a lot of inside problem and issues because they live in a sort of captivity without the possibility of going there, and each one had to respect a very strict set of rules to survive, but not everyone was okay to do that. So it was the story of a community where not everything was okay. And part of the story that the player did is let's go the night in the hood because they need to meet someone. And remember, we were 3 of us, 3 of the organizers, and we say, okay, we will be this person, okay? So we have an agreement on the game master room and say, okay, me, the other, and the other, we will go, 3 of us. Okay, so have this other costume, we switch role, this is the letter, and meet them in the hood. So we went outside, and it was very late at night. So we were very tired. But I say, okay, let's do it for the sake of the game. Let's do it. Okay, so we went to each other, and then we hide ourselves in the hood. And the player was so slow because basically the village was under surveillance of other players because the rule was nobody can get out at night. So you really have to sneak out. It was very hard. So like they took like 1 hour to have the right windows of time to just go outside. And meanwhile, we were in the hood waiting and waiting, super tired in the dark night. It was also a bit cold. And I remember at the moment we said, oh, please, people come in. We really want to do the scene and then go back to sleep. And then it started raining. It rained so hard. And there were no way to hide. We were there for, the spirit of the service. But at the same time, we know maybe nobody will show up because players will see that it's impossible. Maybe they don't believe that some organizer will suffer that. So basically, we were here under the rain with this letter in our mind, and it rained like for half an hour. It was in the summer, but so it was very hard and very challenging. And in the end, I remember us in the middle of the night, somewhere I don't know where on the Tuscany hills, with these letters, and then we saw each other. We were so frustrated, so tired, so wet. We start to laugh and we hug each other and say, "What the fuck we are doing with our life?" Moment of sharing, and then it was nice, and we waited, and then the players came 2 hours.
2 hours.
We didn't see, and for them it was like at the end of that we say, "Oh, you were there? We didn't believe." We say, "Yes, we were there, waiting for you next time."
That's amazing. I had like a sort of similar experience with the Miskatonic, where at some point, me and one of my relations, that was Yulia, the one who was taking pictures, we were supposed to assist some of the students with something a little bit esoteric, and we knew the room, we knew the time. It was right after curfew, and so we went there trying to avoid all the rounds of the prefects, trying not to get caught. We ended up having one of the deepest conversations in the whole LARP, and ended up being caught, only to realize that we were at the right place but at the wrong time. And 10 minutes after we got caught, this is when the event happened. It was the biggest frustration of the whole LARP, but that was amazing.
Just want to add something about the LARP in general.
Yeah.
We talk about big emotion, sometimes traveling, sometimes big production. Don't get scared. LARP is really, really for everyone. We a lot on production, but we work way more on accessibility and inclusivity so much. So, of course, do your own reflection about that, people, but mind that is way easier and welcoming that it can seem from outside.
Yeah.
And also organizers are there for help you answer your question, and also the LARP is more and more accessible in terms of physical accessibility, safety, and we take care. We and the other LARP organizer, we take care more and more to the player. So don't get scared and ask questions instead, and you will see. You will find a LARP that's suitable for you.
Absolutely. To bounce on that, actually, I was new to this, but since I already had some tabletop RPG experience, it was sort of a soft transition. But the friend that I brought with me did not have any connection to anything remotely roleplay related, and ended up having just as much of a good experience as me. So, like, really, it's really for everyone, and I cannot recommend this activity enough. It was really transformative, and yeah, you should definitely try that. This is why I wanted to have this little chat today. It's just to try to show people what it could be, what it is, if you don't know what it is, or just like confirm that you really like that you should continue doing that. It's amazing. But in any case, Alessandro, thank you so much for spending time with us and talking about your thing. I have maybe one last question. Within Chaos League, do some of you have side jobs, or like do you spend your whole time doing Chaos League?
No, we have side job. I mean, I'm teaching at the university in real life, so it means that it's very hard to have a private life. But
Must be exhausting.
It is, but it's also rewarding. And sometimes you manage to, after 20 years, you have some moment off and stuff. I mean, it's still your first. Not. I mean, it's one of the things where you dedicated most of the time in your year, but it's still doable. I mean, I also have a family, and it's okay. You can do other stuff too.
Yeah, but it teaches you a lot about time management.
Yeah, but the reward is so big.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us and answering all the questions. If you guys have any question, here is the link to the Chaos League website. So feel free to see there, try to snatch some places for the next LARPs.
Yes.
And well, thank you again.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you for everyone who was watching, and see you around, maybe around the LARP. Bye.
Yeah. Ciao.